The desert sun beat down on the trade hub of Kael'thar, a bustling settlement built on the edge of the Red Sands. Ships of all sizes hovered overhead, bringing goods, travelers, and rumors from across the galaxy. Among the crowded streets, humans were a rare sight. Most of the inhabitants were alien, tall, strong, and colorful in ways Alex had never seen before. Some had multiple arms, others had eyes that glowed faintly in the heat. Despite the diversity, one thing remained constant. Trade and survival were all that mattered here. Alex adjusted the strap of his bag, which held delicate tools meant to repair communication arrays. He had crossed light years from a mining colony to reach this hub, following orders from his employer. The humans in his company often joked that he had a talent for getting into trouble, but Alex liked to think of it as curiosity. Today, however, he felt the tension in the air more than usual. Something in the crowd's chatter hinted at trouble before it even arrived. He navigated past the crowded market, careful not to knock over crates of exotic fruits or barrels of strange glowing liquids. Merchants shouted over one another, trying to make their deals with visiting traders. He had learned quickly that Kael'thar had rules, but they were unwritten. Respect the locals, avoid conflicts unless unavoidable, and never underestimate anyone. Humans were considered clever, yes, but often weak compared to the aliens who had trained in combat since childhood. It was in this moment that Alex first saw her. Lyra stood near the edge of the plaza, her presence impossible to ignore. She was tall, with smooth, pale violet skin that seemed to shimmer slightly in the sun. Her hair fell in silver waves to her shoulders, and her eyes were a sharp emerald green that seemed to pierce through the crowd. She wore light armor that gleamed under the sun, each piece etched with patterns that hinted at skill and status. In her hand she held a slender blade, polished and deadly. Even from a distance, the humans nearby whispered about her. Lyra was known across Kael'thar as a warrior without equal, someone who could defeat most challengers without breaking a sweat. Alex had heard the stories in passing while traveling, but seeing her in person was different. She didn't just look dangerous, she radiated confidence, as if every movement was part of a dance that only she fully understood. Alex tried to ignore the whispers and move toward the repair station. He had a job to do, and duels were not part of it. But as fate would have it, Lyra noticed him. She tilted her head, and the crowd seemed to notice a ripple of curiosity and tension. For reasons he could not understand, her gaze settled on him. "You," she called, her voice carrying across the plaza. "Human, step forward." Alex froze. He had been called out before, but never like this. The crowd grew silent. All eyes turned to the center where Lyra now waited, blade in hand. Her stance casual but ready. I'm just passing through," Alex said carefully. His words were polite, but his tone carried firmness. Lyra's eyes narrowed. "You do not belong here, and you interfere with nothing, yet you occupy space where you should not. That is disrespectful. You will duel me to prove your worth, or leave at once." Alex blinked. A duel? Here? Now? The plaza had no weapons control. A fight could draw the wrong attention fast. Yet, when he glanced around, he saw the expectation in the eyes of the aliens. To back down would be shameful. To refuse a challenge from someone like Lyra could mark him forever as weak. He straightened, feeling a strange calm wash over him. "I accept your duel," he said. The crowd gasped. Humans rarely accepted challenges from elite warriors without hesitation. Some looked impressed, others wary. But the duel was more than a fight. It was a test of honor, skill, and cleverness. Alex had neither training as a formal fighter nor the raw strength that Lyra possessed. What he had was experience surviving impossible situations, and that would have to be enough. Lyra's lips curved into a small smile, almost amused. "Very well. The arena is prepared," she said. She gestured to a circular pit nearby, its walls low enough for spectators to watch closely. Sand covered the floor and small stones dotted the surface. A perfect place for a duel, with no one else hurt if it got messy. Alex approached slowly, aware of every movement. He adjusted his sleeves, subconsciously hiding his forearm. A tattoo rested there, a mark from his past missions, a human symbol that had inspired awe and fear in certain circles. Today it remained hidden, but even the hint of it felt alive under his sleeve. Lyra studied him closely, her eyes flicking to his arm for a moment, though she did not comment. Alex could not tell if she saw it clearly or just glimpsed it, but a strange sense of tension settled between them. The duel began formally with both stepping into the center. Lyra twirled her blade casually, the metal glinting as she tested the wind. Alex felt the weight of expectation around him, but he also felt a spark of something else, curiosity. He had faced danger before, yes, but nothing like this, where skill, courage, and reputation were all on display simultaneously. Lyra lunged first, swift and precise. Alex barely dodged, rolling to the side and kicking up sand to distract her. The crowd cheered. They loved a show, but Alex did not have the luxury of performing tricks. Every move he made had to count. He blocked, dodged, and used the terrain to his advantage, moving between rocks and barrels, trying to predict her next strike. Despite his caution, he noticed something strange. Lyra's strikes, though fast and deadly, seemed slightly restrained. She measured him carefully, almost as if she were testing not just his skill but his reactions, his character, and maybe even his intentions. Then it happened. During a brief pause, Lyra caught a glimpse of Alex's forearm, and the tattoo revealed itself under the sun. It was subtle but unmistakable, a symbol that only a few could recognize, representing a legendary group of human mercenaries known across several star systems. Alex felt a sudden shift. The air between them seemed to change. Lyra froze mid-step, her eyes widening. Alex, noticing her hesitation, realized that something about the tattoo had affected her. Curiosity mingled with caution in her gaze, and the duel for a moment became something else entirely. Not a fight, but a recognition. The crowd sensed it too. Murmurs rose, alien voices filled with awe and confusion. A duel that promised combat now held the weight of history, reputation, and respect. Alex felt a strange calm again. This tattoo was more than ink. It was a bridge, a warning, a story that connected past and present. Lyra lowered her blade slightly, studying him in a way she had not before. You are him," she said almost to herself. Alex's heart skipped a beat. She knew. But he stayed still, waiting, curious to see how she would proceed. The sun continued to beat down on the arena, shadows stretching across the sand. The duel had started as a simple challenge, but now carried weight neither of them had anticipated. Alex knew this moment could change everything. His reputation, his alliances, even his future on this planet for now. However, all he could do was remain calm, respect the unspoken rules of this unexpected confrontation, and see where it led. One thing was certain. This encounter would not be forgotten, and the story of a human daring to face an alien warrior was only beginning. The crowd leaned forward, waiting. Lyra's eyes never left Alex, and he met her gaze steadily, neither backing down nor rushing. The duel had become something far greater than either of them expected, and in that moment Alex realized that sometimes a tattoo could carry more power than any blade. The desert wind whispered across Kael'thar's trade hub as Alex and Lyra stood facing each other in the circular arena. The crowd had fallen silent, waiting for what they expected to be a dramatic duel, yet the tension between the two combatants was not only about strength. It carried a deeper weight, one that neither of them fully understood yet. Alex adjusted his sleeves again, this time deliberately. The tattoo on his forearm had caused a visible pause in Lyra, a hesitation that spoke of recognition and respect. He had hoped it would go unnoticed, but he knew now that its purpose had shifted. It was not a secret mark anymore, it was a silent message, a bridge between his past and the present. Between human skill and alien admiration. Lyra's green eyes flicked down to his arm once more, then back up to his face. Her breathing was steady. Her body relaxed, but there was an undeniable tension in her shoulders. For a moment she seemed unsure whether the duel should continue, whether it was right to test herself against someone of his reputation. "You bear the mark of the Star Vanguard," she said finally. Her voice quieter than before, almost curious rather than challenging. "I did not think a human of that order would come here. To this place." Alex nodded, keeping his tone calm. "I didn't come to fight. I came to deliver supplies and repair equipment. The duel I accepted only because it seemed the honorable thing to do." Lyra's eyebrows lifted. "Honor, yes. Humans have stories of it, but it is rare to see it practiced." The words hung in the air. The crowd murmured, sensing that something unusual had taken place. This was no ordinary duel anymore. This was a meeting of two warriors who recognized value and courage in each other. Alex had faced countless dangers before, but this moment felt different. It was not about skill alone. It was about understanding, about reputation, about legacy. Lyra twirled her blade lightly in her hand, the metal catching the sunlight. "Show me then," she said, her voice calm but commanding. "Show me what it means for a human to bear that mark." Alex swallowed. He was not trained in ceremonial combat like many alien warriors, but he knew one thing. He could survive by being clever, using the environment and his mind, rather than just brute strength. He shifted slightly, taking in the arena's layout. Rocks, sand, and uneven ground could be used to his advantage. Every small detail mattered. Lyra moved first, testing him with a series of light but precise strikes. Alex dodged instinctively, feeling the sand shift under his boots. He blocked a few swings with makeshift maneuvers, using his bag and tools as improvised shields. The crowd cheered at every near miss, but Alex ignored them. His focus was entirely on Lyra, on predicting her moves and on finding openings without revealing his full strength. As they danced around the arena, Alex noticed subtle changes in Lyra's approach. Her strikes were still fast and sharp, but she was measuring him, not just testing his ability to dodge or counter. She was testing his reactions, his calm under pressure, and perhaps even his courage. Every pause, every hesitation on her part was a question, not a challenge. Then came the moment that made Alex's heart skip. In a sudden movement, Lyra feinted left, then pivoted sharply to the right. Her eyes flicked to his exposed forearm, and she froze for a fraction of a second. That fraction was enough. Recognition dawned in her gaze, and she staggered slightly in her rhythm. Alex noticed immediately. The duel had shifted again, not just in pace, but in purpose. The fight was no longer simply about testing skill. It was now about acknowledgement. Lyra knew who he was, at least in part, and he knew she was reconsidering every strike she made against him. For a moment, neither moved. The desert wind carried the quiet murmurs of the crowd, the distant calls of merchants and the subtle hum of hovering ships above. Time seemed to stretch, suspended between tension and understanding. Finally, Lyra lowered her blade, her eyes studying him with something new, curiosity mixed with respect. "You have survived battles I can only imagine," she said softly. "The humans of your order are..." "Exceptional," Alex nodded. "We survive because we must. Because there is no other choice. And sometimes, because we are clever enough to see what others do not." The words seemed to resonate with her. She stepped back slightly, giving him space, yet her stance remained alert. "Then perhaps this duel is not about skill after all," she murmured. "Perhaps it is about recognition. And trust." Alex allowed himself a small smile. He had faced fear, danger, and near impossible odds before, but he had never felt quite like this, where understanding and respect mattered more than victory. The arena, the crowd, the duel, they had all become secondary to a silent acknowledgement between two warriors. Lyra's eyes softened, but her expression remained serious. "Tell me," she said, lowering her voice so that only he could hear. "Why bear this mark? Why show it here?" Alex considered for a moment. "The tattoo, it is not just a mark, it is a reminder. A reminder of responsibility, of courage, and of what we are capable of when we face impossible odds. It is not meant to boast, it is meant to guide, to remind me of who I am and what I stand for." Lyra's lips pressed together as she nodded slowly. "Then you are more than a human engineer," she said. "You are someone who carries the weight of history and the expectations of your people." Alex shrugged lightly, his modesty clashing with the respect he now saw in her eyes. "Perhaps, but today I am just a man trying to survive in a place full of wonders and dangers I barely understand." A brief pause fell between them. The crowd leaned in, sensing the drama, though they could not fully comprehend it. Two warriors stood before each other, weapons ready yet neither willing to strike. The duel had transformed into a moment of understanding, and the tension was electric. Lyra finally sheathed her blade, a gesture of temporary truce. "You have my respect, human," she said. "Not for accepting a duel, but for standing here with honor and clarity." Alex nodded in return. "And you have mine, Lyra, your skill, your discipline. It is something few humans could match." The plaza filled with whispers. The aliens in the crowd exchanged glances, some impressed, some confused. A duel had been expected, but instead they witnessed a meeting of equals, a moment where respect replaced conflict. Lyra's gaze shifted once more to the horizon, then back to Alex. Perhaps there are tasks greater than dueling, she said. Challenges that require both strength and wisdom. I would like your help with one. Alex tilted his head. My help with what? There is unrest in the northern settlements, she explained. Traders have been attacked and innocent people are at risk. My warriors can handle some of it. But I have heard stories of your cleverness and courage. I think you could be useful. Alex hesitated. It was unusual for him to be offered trust so quickly, especially by someone as formidable as Lyra. Yet he sensed that her request was sincere and that the work could matter. Then I will help, he said. But only if we work together, not because I'm forced to fight. Lyra smiled faintly, the first genuine smile Alex had seen on her face. Agreed, she said. You have passed the first test, not with strength but with insight and honor. For the first time that day, Alex felt relief. The duel had not ended in bloodshed or humiliation. Instead, it had created a connection, a shared understanding that transcended species, reputation, and expectation. The tattoo on his forearm, once a symbol of fear and legend, had become a bridge, a reason to pause to reconsider and to respect. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across Kael'thar, Alex and Lyra walked from the arena together. The crowd began to disperse, their whispers continuing but now tinged with awe rather than anticipation of violence. Alex realized something important as he adjusted his bag and followed Lyra. Survival was not only about skill and courage. Sometimes it was about understanding, about the moments where a gesture or a symbol could change the course of events. And sometimes, he thought with a small smile, a duel could teach lessons far beyond combat. The desert wind had cooled slightly as night approached, but Kael'thar's trade hub remained alive with activity. Lights glimmered from hovering vehicles, market stalls, and small habitation pods that dotted the sand. Alex walked beside Lyra, feeling the weight of the day's events pressing lightly on his shoulders. The duel had ended without bloodshed, but it had changed everything. He had gained not only a cautious respect from the crowd, but also the attention of one of the most skilled warriors in the sector. Lyra led him away from the plaza, down a narrow alley lined with crates and cables. The northern settlements are in trouble, she said quietly. Traders have been attacked repeatedly. Whoever is behind it wants to control the supply lines. My warriors have tried to stop them, but they are clever and dangerous. Alex listened carefully. He had dealt with hostile groups before, but rarely had he faced something that combined cunning with force on an alien world. He asked a few questions about the attackers, their numbers, their tactics, and the terrain of the northern sector. Lyra answered honestly, noting where humans might struggle and where their unique approach could give an advantage. I will need to see the settlements for myself, Alex said. I can help strategize and maybe set traps that won't harm the civilians but will slow down the attackers. Lyra nodded. Good. Your cleverness may be what turns the tide. Follow me. They moved through the city, leaving the bright market behind and entering darker, quieter streets. Alex noticed how carefully Lyra navigated, not just avoiding crowds but checking for signs of ambush or danger. Every movement, every glance suggested that her instincts were as sharp as her blade. Soon they boarded a small, sturdy transport ship. It hovered briefly, then lifted into the night sky. Below them, Kael'thar stretched out like a web of lights against the desert, while above stars glimmered, distant and indifferent. Alex had traveled far across the galaxy, but there was something humbling about seeing the city from this height, with its chaos, danger, and resilience all visible at once. Why do you care so much about these traders? Alex asked as the ship moved northward. Lyra's jaw tightened slightly. They are not just traders. They support families, communities. Without them, the northern settlements would fail, and when I see innocent people suffer because of greed or violence, I act. That is all. Alex nodded slowly. I understand. Humans sometimes feel the same. Protecting others isn't always easy, but it's worth it. The journey was long, but it gave them time to talk and observe. Alex noticed that Lyra had a habit of studying the environment even when speaking, scanning for threats in the distance, reading the wind, and measuring the terrain ahead. Her focus impressed him. She was disciplined, intelligent, and fully aware of the stakes, yet there was also a quiet curiosity about him. When they arrived at the northern settlements, Alex saw the evidence of chaos immediately. Several supply caravans were abandoned, burnt, or overturned, and some buildings showed signs of damage. The locals moved cautiously, speaking in hushed tones. Fear and uncertainty hung over the small community like a heavy cloud. Lyra disembarked first, motioning for Alex to follow. "We need to assess the situation quietly. Civilians must not see us as a threat. If the attackers sense we are coming, they will vanish before we can act." Alex agreed. Together they moved carefully through the settlement, speaking with traders and residents in soft voices. He noted patterns of recent attacks, how the attackers struck quickly, avoided direct confrontations, and seemed to know the terrain well. Some humans would have panicked, but Alex's mind worked quickly, forming ideas about traps, diversions, and defensive strategies. "Notice anything?" Lyra asked quietly, watching him closely. "Yes," Alex said. "They are using the natural ridges to hide, and they strike mostly at night when visibility is low. If we can control the few main pathways, we can funnel them into areas where traps will work." Lyra's eyes glimmered with respect. "I had considered some of this, but your perspective is insightful. Humans are clever in ways we sometimes overlook." They spent the next few hours planning. Alex sketched rough diagrams in the sand, showing where barriers could slow attackers, where decoys could be placed, and how to use minimal force to protect civilians. Lyra contributed, pointing out tactical advantages that only someone trained in combat could notice, such as vantage points and hidden escape routes. As darkness deepened, Alex and Lyra set to work preparing their defenses. Civilians were moved to safer areas while traps and warning systems were carefully placed. Every step was calculated. Alex felt the familiar thrill of strategy, the rush that came from outsmarting opponents without unnecessary violence. Lyra moved beside him, her movements precise and controlled, her blade ready but not yet needed. At one point, Lyra glanced at Alex, her expression serious but thoughtful. "You do not fear the unknown," she said quietly. "Many humans would hesitate, but you move with purpose. I see why your tattoo carries weight. It is not just legend, it is truth." Alex felt a small warmth at her words. Recognition from someone like Lyra meant more than he expected. "It is not about fear," he replied. "It is about understanding what is important and acting wisely. Fear does not help anyone." Night fully arrived and the settlement grew still. The traps were in place, the civilians safe, and the duo waited, hidden among the shadows. Hours passed slowly, each moment stretching with anticipation. Alex's experience taught him patience, but even he could feel the tension rising as the possibility of an attack grew closer. Finally, movement appeared on the ridges beyond the settlement. Shadows moved in patterns that suggested strategy, not chaos. Alex signaled to Lyra, who nodded silently, her blade catching the faint light of the twin moons overhead. The attackers advanced cautiously, unaware that every path had been anticipated. Alex and Lyra's plan began to unfold. Decoys drew some into false pathways, tripwires slowed others, and sand pits disguised as solid ground caught a few by surprise. The invaders were clever, but Alex's insight combined with Lyra's combat skill gave them an advantage they did not expect. As the skirmish began, Alex realized that this was far more intense than any duel in an arena. Here lives were at stake and every choice mattered. He moved quickly, signaling civilians, triggering diversions, and guiding Lyra to intercept threats. Lyra fought with precision, her blade striking only when necessary to disable or stop the attackers. Together they became a seamless team, human cleverness complementing alien skill. Hours passed and the attackers began to retreat. They were clever, but not clever enough to overcome both strategy and skill working in harmony. By dawn, the northern settlements were quiet once more, with minimal casualties and much of the stolen goods recovered. Lyra sheathed her blade, her expression a mix of satisfaction and exhaustion. "You were remarkable," she said to Alex. "Your insight, it saved lives tonight. Humans truly are extraordinary when you allow them to think beyond strength alone." Alex nodded, tired but content. "We saved them because we understood what mattered. That is all any human or alien can do." For a moment they stood together, watching the first rays of sunlight touch the desert. The settlement was safe for now. Civilians emerged cautiously, offering thanks and curious glances at the human and alien who had defended them. Alex realized that this was only the beginning. Trust had been forged tonight, not through a duel but through action, courage, and clever thinking. Lyra turned to him, her gaze steady, I underestimated humans before, not now. I see the value, the courage, and the cunning. You are more than I imagined, Alex, and I am glad you stood before me in the arena." Alex smiled faintly, "And I am glad I accepted your challenge. It brought me here and we saved lives tonight." "That is worth more than any duel," she nodded. "Tomorrow, we will continue to secure the trade routes. But tonight, we rest. You have earned it." As they walked back toward a safe location, Alex felt a quiet sense of pride. He had survived the duel, gained the respect of a powerful alien warrior, and now helped protect innocent lives. More importantly, he realized that humans could succeed not only through strength but through cleverness, insight, and understanding, a lesson the galaxy had yet to fully appreciate. And for Alex, the night sky of Kael'thar no longer seemed vast and indifferent. It was full of potential, challenge, and opportunity. The morning sun rose slowly over the northern settlements, casting long shadows across the sand and the repaired buildings. Alex stood on a small hill overlooking the area, his eyes scanning the horizon. The attacks from the previous night had been repelled, but he knew this was only the beginning. Whoever had orchestrated the raids was clever, and they would not give up so easily. Lyra joined him, her silver hair catching the sunlight as she moved silently beside him. She had spent the night patrolling the outskirts with her warriors, ensuring that no hidden threats remained. Now her expression was serious, her green eyes sharp as ever. "We did well last night," she said quietly, "but they will test us again. I can feel it. The attackers are not reckless. They plan and wait for opportunities." Alex nodded, brushing sand from his sleeves. "Then we need to be ready. They will come and we have to anticipate their moves. Last night's success was because we predicted their strategy. Next time we need to be even smarter." Lyra smiled faintly, a mixture of respect and determination in her gaze. "I have learned something from you, human. Strategy and cleverness are not always our first instinct, but tonight they could save lives again. I will follow your lead if you allow it." Alex felt a surge of pride. Lyra's trust was not given lightly. "We will work together," he said. "Strength alone is not enough. Planning, understanding, and timing are what matter." They spent the morning moving through the settlement, speaking with traders and civilians, checking that defenses were in place. Alex suggested improvements to the earlier setup. Better warning systems, reinforced pathways, and decoys that could confuse attackers. Lyra provided insight on positioning and combat techniques that humans might overlook. Together, they refined a plan that would give them the greatest advantage. By midday, the settlement was calm but tense. Civilians moved cautiously, still wary of sudden attacks, while Alex and Lyra prepared for what they both knew would come. The duo discussed possible scenarios, running through each one carefully. Alex admired how Lyra's mind worked. Her intuition about the attackers was precise, and her discipline ensured that every action had purpose. As afternoon approached, movement was spotted in the distance. Shadows shifted along the dunes, growing larger as the attackers advanced. Alex pointed them out to Lyra. "They are coming," he said. "We can predict their approach from the terrain. Use the ridges to funnel them into the traps." Lyra nodded and signaled to her warriors, who moved quietly to their positions. Alex adjusted some of the decoys, making sure they were subtle but effective. The attackers approached cautiously, unaware that every path had been anticipated. The first clash was sudden. A small group of attackers stumbled into a sand pit. Their momentum stopped abruptly. Others triggered false pathways, diverting them into areas where Lyra and her warriors waited. Alex coordinated silently, signaling civilians to stay safe while guiding Lyra's forces. The attackers were clever and skilled, but Alex's planning and Lyra's combat abilities gave the defenders the upper hand. Every movement was calculated, every strike measured. The attackers realized quickly that they were not facing ordinary humans or isolated warriors. They were up against a coordinated force that combined intelligence, skill, and strategy. During the battle, Alex noticed a pattern. The attackers seemed to rely on fear and confusion as much as on brute force. By remaining calm and organized, they could turn the tide. Alex shouted instructions, guiding Lyra and her warriors to anticipate ambushes and counter them effectively. Lyra moved with precision, her blade cutting through obstacles rather than attacking recklessly. She disabled traps set by the attackers, intercepted those trying to escape, and protected civilians who had wandered too close to the danger zones. Alex's strategies worked seamlessly with her actions, creating a force that was greater than the sum of its parts. Hours passed as the skirmish continued. The attackers, frustrated and unable to adapt, began to retreat. Alex and Lyra followed carefully, ensuring that none could regroup and cause more harm. Civilians emerged cautiously, offering thanks and relief while the human and alien warriors kept a watchful eye. Finally, the settlement was quiet once more. The attackers had been repelled, with minimal casualties among the civilians. Alex and Lyra stood together, surveying the aftermath. The settlement was safe, at least for now, and the villagers were beginning to rebuild their trust and security. Lyra turned to Alex, her expression one of admiration and gratitude. "You have shown that humans are more than what we often expect," she said. "Cleverness, strategy, and calm thinking can achieve what strength alone cannot." Alex smiled faintly. "We did it together. Your skill made all the difference. Strategy alone would not have stopped them." For a moment they stood in silence, watching the sun dip below the horizon. The desert was quiet, save for the faint wind and the distant hum of the settlement. Alex realized that this partnership was more than convenience. It was mutual respect forged in battle, trust earned through action rather than words. Lyra broke the silence. "Tomorrow we must remain vigilant. I believe this was only the beginning. The attackers will learn and they will return stronger and smarter." Alex nodded. "Then we will be ready. We will use what we know, adapt and protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is what matters." As night fell, they moved to a safe location outside the settlement. Alex set up a small observation post, while Lyra patrolled the perimeter with her warriors. The duo shared information, strategized for possible attacks, and discussed ways to strengthen the northern defenses further. During a quiet moment, Lyra glanced at Alex's forearm, where the tattoo was partially hidden under his sleeve. "That mark, it tells a story," she said softly. "A story of courage, responsibility, and survival. I see now why it carries weight even here." Alex nodded. "It reminds me of who I am and what I am capable of. But more than that, it reminds me that cleverness and honor matter as much as strength. It is why we survived the duel, and why we were able to protect the settlement today." Lyra's gaze softened. "Humans are remarkable when given the chance. I see it now, and I respect it. You have earned your place, Alex, not just in the arena, but here, in this world, and among warriors." Alex felt a quiet pride. Recognition from someone like Lyra was meaningful, but he knew the real test was still ahead. The attackers would return and their cunning would increase. He had to be ready, not just for strategy, but for the unknown challenges that awaited. The night deepened, and the stars above Cael'thar sparkled brilliantly. Alex felt a sense of purpose he had not felt in a long time. He was no longer just a human engineer in a strange alien world. He was part of a team that could make a difference, protect lives, and show that humans were capable of more than the galaxy often expected. Lyra spoke again, her voice low but steady. "Rest now, Alex. Tomorrow we face the next challenge. And I believe together, we can overcome anything." Alex lay down near the observation post, feeling the cool desert sand beneath him. He closed his eyes for a moment, reflecting on the day's events. The duel, the respect earned, the battles fought, and the lives saved. Each moment had brought him closer to understanding not only the alien world around him, but also the value of his own human qualities. Cleverness, courage, and honor. He knew that the days ahead would test them both further. The attackers would return, the settlements would face new dangers, and their partnership would be challenged. But for the first time in a long while, Alex felt ready. He was not alone, and he had earned the trust of a warrior unlike any he had ever met. As sleep began to take him, he thought of the desert, the settlement, and the lessons of the past few days. He knew that tomorrow would be another test, another opportunity to show that humans could survive, adapt, and even thrive in a galaxy filled with challenges. And somewhere nearby, Lyra watched over the settlement, her eyes sharp, her mind calculating, and her respect for the human at her side growing with every moment. Together, they were more than a warrior and an engineer. They were a team, and the universe had yet to see the full extent of what they could achieve. The sun had not yet risen when Alex awoke to the faint rustle of movement outside the observation post. The desert was quiet, almost too quiet. An instinct told him that the attackers had returned. He quickly checked the perimeter, noting subtle signs, footprints in the sand, the disturbed shadows of rocks, and faint sounds carried on the wind. Lyra appeared beside him without a sound, her eyes scanning the horizon. "They have learned from last night," she said, her tone serious. "They are smarter, more organized. This will not be easy." Alex nodded, feeling the familiar mix of anticipation and focus. He adjusted his sleeves to partially reveal the tattoo on his forearm, a reminder of who he was and what he could do. The mark had become more than ink. It was a symbol of experience, cleverness, and the ability to survive against impossible odds. "We have the advantage of preparation," he said quietly. "We know the terrain and we can predict some of their moves. But we have to be ready for surprises." Lyra's green eyes gleamed. "Then we act as one. Your mind, my skill. Together we are stronger than they anticipate." The attackers arrived with the first light of dawn. A coordinated force moved swiftly across the dunes, their weapons raised, their strategy clear. Alex and Lyra had positioned their forces carefully. Civilians were safe, decoys were in place, and hidden traps waited along the paths most likely to be taken. Alex signaled to Lyra and they moved into the center of the plan. He activated small warning systems, simple devices that made noise when disturbed, while she positioned her warriors at key points. The attackers fell into the carefully prepared pathways, triggering traps that slowed them and funneled them toward Lyra's forces. The first clash was intense. Alex observed patterns, noting which attackers adapted quickly and which fell into predictable behaviors. Using his insight, he directed Lyra and the others to intercept or block, ensuring that civilians remained safe. The attackers were clever, but they were no match for the combination of strategy and skill that Alex and Lyra displayed. During the fight, one group of attackers tried to flank from a hidden ridge. Alex anticipated this and directed a small decoy to divert them. Lyra intercepted the others, her blade moving with precision, disabling their weapons without unnecessary violence. The attackers realized too late that they were caught in a web of preparation, and their morale began to falter. Hours passed as the battle continued. The attackers fought with skill and persistence, but each move they made was countered by Alex's insight and Lyra's combat ability. The settlement remained secure, civilians were safe, and the attackers' numbers dwindled. At one point, an attacker lunged directly toward Alex, aiming to catch him off guard. He dodged, rolling to the side, and used a sandpit to slow the attacker's advance. Lyra moved in swiftly, disarming the opponent without harm. "Clever thinking," she said quietly. "It saved you and kept the settlement safe." Alex smiled faintly. "We survive by using our heads, not just our strength." As the attackers retreated in disarray, Alex and Lyra worked to ensure that none could regroup. They pursued cautiously, using decoys and traps to prevent escapes, showing the invaders that persistence alone would not succeed against those who combined cleverness and skill. Finally, the attackers fled the settlement entirely. The dunes were quiet once more, save for the wind and the faint sounds of rebuilding. Civilians cautiously emerged, offering thanks to the human and alien warriors who had defended them. Alex and Lyra stood together, surveying the aftermath. The settlement was safe, and the attackers had learned a lesson. Underestimating humans could be a grave mistake. Lyra turned to Alex, her expression serious but tinged with admiration. "You have shown that humans are more than what we expect," she said. "Cleverness, courage, and insight can triumph where strength alone might fail." Alex nodded. "And you showed that skill and discipline, when combined with strategy, can protect lives. We worked together, and that is why we succeeded." For a moment they stood in silence, letting the calm of victory wash over them. The settlement was quiet, and the desert seemed peaceful for the first time in days. Alex realized that this partnership was more than convenience. It was trust, mutual respect, and a shared understanding of what mattered most. Lyra sheathed her blade, a rare gesture of complete calm. "Tomorrow the settlement will recover, and I will ensure that the defenses are stronger than before. But today we have done well. You, human, have earned my respect fully." Alex felt a quiet pride. Recognition from someone like Lyra was meaningful, but more importantly, he knew that their combined efforts had saved lives. "And you, Lyra, have shown me that aliens can teach humans as much as we teach them. Together, we are capable of more than either of us could do alone." The sun rose higher, casting light over the settlement and the recovering traders. Alex and Lyra walked through the streets, checking that the civilians were safe and helping where needed. They shared small smiles of acknowledgement and understanding, knowing that their bond had grown stronger through trials, danger, and mutual respect. As they reached a higher vantage point, overlooking the dunes and the paths from which the attackers had come, Lyra spoke quietly. Humans are clever, yes, but your courage and calm thinking are rare. You have earned a place among warriors, not just for skill, but for heart and mind. Alex glanced at his forearm, where the tattoo peeked out from under his sleeve. It is a reminder, he said softly, not of power, but of responsibility. Courage is not enough alone. Cleverness and honor matter just as much. Lyra nodded, her gaze fixed on the distant horizon. Then we are aligned. Strength, skill, cleverness, and honor. That is how we protect those who cannot defend themselves. And that is how we survive. The civilians watched from below, their respect evident. Alex realized that humans often underestimated their own value in the galaxy. Today they had shown that strategy, insight, and bravery could achieve what sheer force could not. Lyra turned to him, her expression thoughtful. I underestimated humans before, not now. I see your worth, Alex, and I am glad you stood before me in the arena. Alex smiled faintly, feeling a sense of completion. And I am glad I accepted your challenge. It led to more than a duel. It led to saving lives and earning your trust. That is worth more than any victory in combat. For the first time since arriving on Kael'thar, Alex felt a true sense of belonging. He was no longer just a human in a strange world. He was part of a team that could make a difference, a team that combined the best of human cleverness and alien skill. Lyra sheathed her blade fully, the gesture signaling the end of immediate danger. Rest now, she said. Tomorrow we rebuild and we remain vigilant. But today you have earned it. Alex lay down on the warm sand, watching the stars fade in the morning light. He reflected on the past days, the duel, the battles, the victories, and the lessons learned. Every moment had been a test of skill, insight, and courage. And now, standing beside Lyra, he understood that humans could survive, adapt, and even thrive in a galaxy filled with dangers far greater than themselves. Lyra sat beside him, her eyes scanning the horizon one last time. You have proven humans are capable, she said softly. Cleverness and courage, when combined with honor, can achieve greatness. Remember this, Alex, it is what sets your kind apart. Alex nodded, feeling a quiet sense of pride and purpose. I will. And I will continue to use what I know to protect, survive, and help where I can. The desert was calm once more. The northern settlements were safe, and the attackers had learned that underestimating humans, or their clever allies, was a grave mistake. Alex and Lyra had proven that strength alone was not enough. Strategy, insight, and courage, combined with trust and respect, could overcome even the most formidable opponents. As the sun rose fully over Kael'thar, Alex realized that this journey was far from over. The galaxy was vast, full of danger, opportunity, and the unknown. But for now, he had earned respect, forged trust, and discovered that humans could stand alongside the strongest warriors in the universe, not just surviving, but thriving. And beside him, Lyra nodded in silent agreement, knowing that together, they could face whatever challenges awaited, combining strength, skill, and cleverness to protect those who could not protect themselves. The duel that began as a challenge had ended not in combat alone, but in understanding, trust, and a partnership that would change both their lives and the lives of many others, forever.